Rossi is joining me today. Yes, and we have
Hello.
a current Prairie State student, Jocelyn Billheimer, who should be dropping by later. And we're really excited to talk to you about essays. So admissions application essays, scholarship application essays, personal statements fall into that as well. So again, as I said before, this is being recorded and we're going to upload it to YouTube. So first, before we get into the reason we're here, I just want to do a quick reminder for everyone that I have a lot of other information sessions designed to help you coming up. And if you signed into this session using your Prairie State account, then I will get a meeting log with your email. And so you will get these presentations. Anything that's purple is a web link and where you can go and get more information about these things. So I've got a lot of great things coming up for this semester. I actually have more programming this semester than ever before in the 14 years I've been doing this at Prairie State. So the pandemic made that possible. You're getting more this semester because of it. All right, let's talk about essays. So essay topics. So that's usually, we're kind of put together most common questions and issues that come up. So students most frequently ask, what should I write about? How much should I write? And so let's start from there. And if you cover three main topics, you're usually covering what the universities are looking for or the scholarship, the people giving out scholarships. So where are you coming from? So what life experiences made you who you are now? Where are you now? So what are you doing currently in your life to make things happen to then go towards the third thing, which is where are you going? What are your career goals? What major are you wanting to go on to? If you have things where you want to make an effect for your community or your future profession or things for society and the world, those are things where you are going. So if you're covering those kind of things, what made you who you are now? What are you doing now to take steps towards building towards those ultimate goals? And then what are those ultimate goals? So touching on your major and your career that you want to go on to is always a very natural thing to be talking about when applying to universities and also applying for scholarships, because if they're deciding between you and another student, they want to, if you can tell about all the amazing things that you're hoping to do in the future, that could give you an edge. So another common question before we start is, how many words? What should I do? The most common word limit is 500 to 650 words. So 500 words is about 1 page single spaced. And Professor Rossi, if I'm off on any of that, jump in, but that's what English professors have told me in the past. I'm getting a nod. Excellent. So 500 words is 1 page single spaced. And I often have students before they start think, tell me, how am I going to write so many words? And then after they've done their first draft, they often come and say, how do I cut things out? So don't worry about the words, get your ideas on the paper and kind of take it from there. So sometimes the personal statement or essays don't state a word limit. If they don't state any word limit or character limit, then going by the 500 to 650 words is a great thing to do. Another thing, getting started. I think it's hardest to just get started. Once you get started and you have words on the paper, you've taken that action, you have things to work with. I think it's hardest before you've even started. So things to help you get started, ideas for that is to brainstorm topics. It doesn't have to be perfect writing. It doesn't have to be full sentences. So if you like writing things down, that's great. Sometimes people just want to say it aloud. So you could be voice dictating those and using that as an inspirational list. So topics you could be writing about. So topics could be things like your major life experiences, people who were instrumental in supporting you in your life or your education so far. You don't have to mention other people, but I do tend to see a connection between essays when a student writes about their goals and they're showing that they've got the truth, they've got the whole picture, they've got good grades, they're doing great activities, they have a great goal in mind for their future. When they also have someone, and it doesn't have to be a huge part, it could literally be just a sentence or two in the essay, but when I've noticed a pattern in our students that get these higher scholarships, like one's worth $40,000 a year, or students that were successful getting a full ride, almost every single one of them mentioned how their grandparent was inspirational, or their parent was, help put education first, or it's usually a relative, but it doesn't have to be. It also could be someone you've worked with, or someone who was your teacher, people that supported you. This is optional. You don't have to do any single one thing I'm talking about here. But if there's someone that made a great effect in your life to get you to where you are, actually mentioning that it can be perfectly fine. So the next one, make or refer a list to a list of your current or recent past accomplishments, honors, activities in or out of school. So I do often get asked, how long ago can I be referring to activities? Or sometimes I get asked, does it have to be only school things? And absolutely, it does not only have to be school. Any significant things you have done in or out of school, actually having community involvement is a huge thing. And if you're working all the time and it's helping to support your family, write about that too, because then they know how you are able to juggle multiple demands and then still accomplish what you've accomplished. So sometimes I have people that are concerned they don't have a lot of things they can write about because they were working so much. So they write about that instead. So for time frame of the accomplishments, if you have anything within the last 5 years, in my opinion, is something that you should definitely put on your list. You often have a list where you can't write about everything, but just write down everything you can think of for your list. So when you're writing the essay and deciding something, if you want to write about this life experience or this accomplishment or an example of your academic excellence and your future promise in your career, you can just see a quick list of things that you could be dropping in as reinforcement for what you're writing about. So if it's in the last 5 years, definitely totally fine. If it was significant and it was more than 5 years ago, 10, 15, and if it's someone returning to school, I personally think that that's fine. There's no one right answer. I can think for myself, I was a volunteer puppeteer at a children's museum in high school, and I kept that on my resume for about 15 years. So, because it was a really quirky, unique thing, and most of my resume had to do with work and why someone would want to employ me, but I kept it on there for a while. That's just kind of a judgment call. Okay, specific details, those last 2 bullet points, it's always good to make sure whoever you're applying to, whether it's a university to attend or a scholarship that you're hoping they will help fund your education, letting them know about your major choice, how it's supporting the careers you want to go on to. I know sometimes that can be hard to write about because you're truly still figuring it out. I know I was graduated from college before I really figured out what I wanted to do. But you state what you know at this time. And people understand that can change. As long as you're being honest and true and authentic and genuine for what you know now, it is okay. Specific last one, the specific details of why you want to go to each school. And I should have put in an extra piece if you're writing for a scholarship, how you might be a good fit for the criteria of the people they prefer to fund. So like it could be an organization that wants to support women in the sciences from the Chicago area. So like if that was a scholarship, you'd want to make sure they're very aware of that your scientific related career goals, and if it's not noted anywhere else in the application itself, how you meet the other criteria. For schools, specific details of why you would want to attend each school that you're applying to. If you are a fan of the school, if you have done research on that specific academic program or professors, or of groups that they're known of, the things you want to engage in academically, it is a perfect time to write about that in the essays. One thing not to write about, or I guess 2 things not to write about, would be sports teams or their social life. That doesn't help in an essay. They want to, when universities are deciding to admit you or not, they want to make sure your values are on school first. And literally, I've had U of I Urbana at meetings I've been at, they say, please tell your students not to write another essay about how much they love Lovie Smith and they can't wait to go to our football games. That is not what we're looking for. So that's just an example. And then another one is in the winter when it's so snowy, sometimes we might be moved, like if we're applying to Texas or some warm state, we might talk about how we're looking forward to different weather, but that's just not the place. We can talk about that and look forward to it, but just not for your essay for the scholarships or admissions. All right, and there we go. And Margaret, you want to take the lead now? I'm sorry, Professor Rossi.
You think that's fine. I'm not used to being called professor, but I appreciate it. I like the way it sounds.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just going to talk a little bit about organizational strategies when you're creating your essays, because I am an English teacher over at Prairie State College, and I've been teaching over there. I've been teaching English for a long time. Let's just stop there. It's been a while. So what I did is I took some of the things that Sarah had brought up in the little bit of this PowerPoint presentation that she brought up, and I just kind of like tried to take the ideas that she had in there and put them in some kind of a strategy. It's a way for you to consider how you could organize your text as an English teacher, right? So as I tell my students in all my classes, actually, is in an introduction, you usually write background information. And in this case, the background information is going to be about yourself, all right? And this idea of where you are and where you are now and where you're coming from. So your background about yourself, where you started at, where are you from, why are you going to college, what were your plans for college, what are you, so that whole idea of, how you started from, where you're at, where you were at, and where you plan on going from there, and what are you doing to achieve these goals. So as an introduction, that would be something for your consideration, so you get yourself a little bit of background information about yourself before you go into the whole rest of the essay. And then I always tell my students that you could usually do 1 or 2 introductory paragraphs, is what's the next point I have here. And that's just if you're going to say if you came from a different country, you can talk about that, and then talk about your background from being from the country and how you came into this country, for example. So that would be 2 different paragraphs if you did it that way. And then you always want to lead into a thesis statement, because I'm an English teacher, so I'm gonna always say that you're to keep you focused on what you're talking about. Thesis is usually just keeps you on keep you right on what I want to say to these people that are reading my essay. And this is just something I threw together rather quickly, and it's very general. The following are reasons for consideration, and that's just something for just to bounce around in your head for a bit, and you can change it or tweak it or do whatever you need to do with that thesis statement. But then that keeps you focused on. I just want to talk to these people about reasons to let me come to your school. These are reasons why you should let me be in your come to be a student at your university. And then that will keep you also focused on what you want to talk about. And then once again, I just took some of Sarah's ideas from the previous slide and went on to, in the body of your paragraph, depending on how you want to organize it, it's going to be totally up to you as far as organization goes. So I have just some life experiences that you have that you'd want to share, people that were instrumental to you, back to what she had already written, another teacher, a mentor, someone that helped you or that helped you get through this, like Sarah mentioned, grandparents, parents, whatever. Accomplishments, things that you've done, that were pretty good things. And even like Sarah said, they don't have to be major accomplishments. You don't have to save the world, but that you've done something that was, you helped at a school, you helped with some organization, you did some things, you worked in the community with something, with an organization in the community. These are accomplishments. And so you need to take those things that you've done and put them in here, because you've achieved these little, no matter if you may think that they're not important, but they may be for the people that are reading them. So make sure that you're taking into consideration things that you have done. And Sarah and I were talking about this the other day when we were talking about doing this, and we were both saying that it's difficult for us to we feel like we're bragging. I think so it's hard for us to say, yeah, I did this and I did that, and you feel like you're bragging about yourself. But in reality, if you did something like that, you need to let them know that you've done it. You have good things about you that you've done, and you need to be able to tell them about that. Not necessarily bragging; it's just saying what you've done. And we talk about that in your conclusion as well. Reasons for choosing those career paths, or the idea of why you might be choosing those career paths. Like Sarah said, you may not know what your career paths are just yet, but you have an idea of where you want to go, and you should be considering about the schools that you're applying to. You should absolutely know about those schools. There should be some knowledge about why you're going to these schools, and not because the weather is warm. That's a good point. Um, and then anything else that you wish to add, you can sit down and make a list of things that you want to do before you even start writing this, which is what Sarah said with the brainstorming. Just make little lists and then try to figure out how you're going to put those things together. Be sure to give specific examples to support each topic you choose. And that's important because as you're considering, I want to talk about this, you make sure you have an example to support that. That's a topic sentence. That's a paragraph, right? That's basic writing 101, writing skills. So whatever topic, I've had many accomplishments, or I've had a couple of accomplishments. You better in the rest of that paragraph tell them what they were. All right, that's supporting your topic sentence. And so that's when you make sure that you do all that. I've had students when I'm also a tutor in the writing center, and I've worked with students that have been writing their essays to get into schools. And they'll write, I'm very excited about going to your school, and they stop there. And I was like, why? You got to follow through on that. Just don't leave those hazy little statements without any backup on them. Make sure you're explaining why. That's what I said. And in the conclusion, for consideration, again, these are not like check-off points. This is just some things for your consideration, is the reason for choosing this specific university. Be sure that you have a very good reason. Be genuine. Make sure that you've done a little research about the schools that you want to go to, that you know that something about them. They're going to like that. The people that are reading these essays are going to want that you know about the school, that there's specific reasons. You know what departments they have. You know what they're known for. All right. I know that this is a very good business school. Whatever. Do some research. Let them know that you know what they're known for any conclusion, and then be aware of the schools you're applying to. That's the back to what they're known for, and be sure to let them know your positive attitude. Make sure you let them know why you'll be an asset for them. That's the last thing you want to make sure that you're telling them. I could help this school. I can be good for this school. I will be here at this school, and I can help with other things. I'm going to be in development, and because of my background, organization background, I can help with others. Make sure that you can tell the school there's a reason why they should accept you into their school. And be positive about yourself. Those positive things, positive reasons. And I think that's all I had, Sarah. I don't think I have anything else unless, yeah, yep. And anything else Sarah wants to add? that's
Sorry,
all.
I forgot I muted myself.
Yeah, I know. I almost did too. I'm used to having it on.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I love is, so what Professor Rossi did is she organized, so even in the slides, she organized my ideas. So in putting together this presentation, I kind of put them into some categories and put some things, but things you guys should be thinking about. But then she even organized, okay, these are the parts of the essay it can go into. And there's going to be information at the end, but she is not only an English professor with us, but Professor Rossi is a free writing consultant at Prairie State's Writing Center. So information at the end, we'll have a link for making writing center appointments, and they do support your essay. So it was created to help you with class assignments, but they absolutely support you, and they're very excited. I always get great feedback from our consultants there. They're always excited to help you guys with your essays for admissions applications and scholarships. When we were preparing for this, Professor Rossi and I were talking about how she was one of the people who helped a graduate of Prairie State who is now at Johns Hopkins University. Yeah, so that was like an exciting thing. So good things to know, and you can request people by name. Okay, another thing that can happen is that we can get stuck. So some suggestions on getting past getting stuck. And frankly, I should have probably put this first one somewhere else. Like, you should just start out this way, but even before you start writing an actual essay. So the brainstorming was like writing all the stuff down, your accomplishments, your activities. That's before you even look at a writing prompt. once you've looked at a writing prompt, which is the question that a university wants you to answer or a scholarship organization wants you to answer, write that at the top of the page before you even start doing the draft. Throw in the draft, write in what you can, and then go back up and say, did I actually answer the question that they're asking? And it's great to have that all in one document. Plus, what if there's a word or character count, because that helps us to help you if you're bringing it into the Writing Center. They can give you more specific guidance. You are welcome to come to me for what I typically is best for is the getting you started or looking at something to see if you've communicated the kind of strategic message you want to communicate. The details of the grammar and the writing styles or most effective writing, I leave that in the hands of the experts or Writing Center. But I'm also a resource if you want to talk about kind of strategic messaging or things that you do or don't want to include in the essay. So that kind of moves into the later things on this page. So talking with your friends, family members, or classmates can often help people get unstuck. Going to the Writing Center and getting assistance there. Professors, if you are connected, if you have a good relationship with one of your professors, or you want to develop one, if you're like, okay, I haven't really talked to this professor outside of class much, but they seem really great and I'm interested in their opinion on this, you can go to their office hours or email them and see if they are interested in just giving advice. Now, they probably will refer you to also see the Writing Center or to see me, but you could let them know you're doing those sort of things, but you valued their opinion, you were interested in that. And then transfer counselor is myself. So these are ways, if you find yourself getting stuck, reaching out to people is usually a great way to get unstuck. Also kind of a point, wasn't sure how to figure out how to put the rest of this in with everything else, so it got its own slide. Over time, I've noticed there tends to be two different kinds of categories and styles of essays or personal statements that I've seen. The more standard kind, the kind that we almost everyone immediately thinks of when they think of an application or scholarship essay, is one where it's stating your major goals, your career goals, where it's, everything that we just talked about, kind of just laying it out in a paper that you might even be writing in the style that you might be writing for a class. That is the standard version, perfectly fine for the vast majority of majors and schools throughout the country. However, there's this other option, and if someone is more of a creative thinking or creative writing kind of person, you don't have to follow the standard style. And there's actually a very small portion, a small number of schools that actually have preferences towards essays where one is more creative and not standard in how they think and how they write and how they interact with the world, because it's a school that wants to create innovative thinkers. They embrace being known for that. So if you are looking into a school and you're seeing in the admissions essay writing prompt or research you've done about the type of students that the school likes to recruit the most, and if you start getting an inclination that doing a creative writing style essay, one that isn't a standard one, it's okay to go along with those instincts. And this is a hard concept to describe. I recommend, there's a slide later, I recommend reading essay ebooks. There are ebooks at Prairie State's library that you can check out online and see examples of essays, and you would see examples of some of these creative writing ones. But to give an example now, I have a Prairie State graduate who's given me permission to share academic information that can help others. And the essay that he wrote, and this is one that he applied to and Harvard interviewed him. He ultimately was not accepted at Harvard that year. The next year he got into Stanford. He did end up doing a different essay, but the essay that made him interesting enough that Harvard interviewed him, which is huge. It started out with, "I am a werewolf." And at the beginning of that essay, I wasn't sure. He had me pre-read it and ask for advice. I wasn't sure if that was going to be a fit or not, but it was a beautiful essay. It was so well written, and the werewolf was turned into, as you go on, a game that he played in his work as a social worker, and it really was part of a metaphor or a theme of how this person really wants to help the world and to give back. So it was not a standard essay at all. So if you're a person who likes creative writing, that is something you could potentially be doing too. I don't want you guys to come away from this thinking you have to like be writing almost like an essay with very specific info. It can be more creative. And that does, if you choose to do it and you do it well, a creative essay could really help your essay stand out. It's usually only needed if you're going to a highly competitive school that embraces that creative kind of thinking and writing, or a highly competitive scholarship, and the writing is shaped in a way that really hits the key audience of the group that you are applying to. You don't need to worry about trying to get to that level for the vast majority of schools or majors. And ebooks. So I mentioned at Prairie State, the Prairie State Library has free electronic books. And so all of you that are logged in using your Prairie State account, and if you got in right away, if you didn't get held in a waiting room to be admitted, I'm going to be getting your email. So I think that's everyone on here. I get your emails and I will send you this presentation. All the purple fonts are links. So you could be linking straight to the library transfer resource guide, which actually has even more information and resources. And then these 5 books are in the resource guide, and you can be clicking on the links and reading those books through Prairie State's library. The second one, Write Your Way In, that one's actually was specifically recommended by a Prairie State graduate who is now at the University of Southern California, which is a top-ranked school in the United States. So the essay makes a big difference when you're going for those extra competitive schools. So this is another way to get unstuck. Read a book about it. But also this could be a good way of getting started. If you really feel stuck, you don't even know where to get started. These books are great. They always put in ideas of what you could be writing about. And most people get ideas when they look at these. All right, so next I have Jocelyn Billheimer, a current Prairie State student. Jocelyn, do you want to unmute? And she's joined us. Awesome. Okay, she's joined us. She's agreed to share her knowledge. Jocelyn, just to give you guys a quick intro, straight out of high school, she attended New York University, which is ranked number 30th in the nation. By US News and World Report, which is a very well-respected ranking system. And she worked at NYU's admissions office while she was there. So she knows a lot. Not only that, but Jocelyn is a published writer. And I already added this in after I started sharing, so it didn't show up right now. But you guys, the presentation I'll send, it'll have a link so you guys can read her published writing. So this was published by a website where you have to be pre-reviewed and you're professionally edited. It is a scholarly research system. It's very challenging. It's not easy to do this kind of stuff. Oops. So Jocelyn, I'm gonna turn it over to her now, so you guys can hear her advice.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for letting me come on. Everything that you and Professor Rossi have said so far has really been spot on. And I just want to say that I got published while attending Prairie State. My English professor, one of the papers that I wrote for class, she suggested that I submit it for review for this academic journal. So that's just like another pro to, like, you know, getting to know your professors and, you know, developing a relationship with them and, you know, trying in your writing, because you could get a lot of cool stuff done, a lot of cool opportunities even while you're at Prairie State. But my biggest advice for just approaching this college essay process is to not be afraid to be different or be yourself. Definitely follow the guidelines or like take the different tips that you get from the books you might read, or even this presentation, like all the different things that Sarah and Margaret said to include, like those are helpful because you do want to give them an idea of how you are an asset to the school and how you are well-rounded, but also like don't discount the things that you might think are small or like the hobbies or interests or passions that you have, because that really gives an insight into who you are. So like if you're a babysitter and you love children, or if you've say you really like plants, or maybe, and you have, maybe that's like how you go about talking about your creative essay, like some type of metaphor with like how you, the plants you're growing, and like how that's translated into your academic life, just things like that. I think that really sets you apart, because um, you're going up against people from all over the place, but at the end of the day, you're the only you. You're only you. So don't try to be anyone else but you. Don't think that, oh my goodness, like I'm only from here. I've only done this. I don't, no, like whatever you've done, whatever you've been through, is brilliant. And just to talk about like uh, being positive doesn't mean you have to be untruthful. Even if something negative happened in your life, the fact that you overcame it, or like you are overcoming it and getting past it, like including that in your essay, like that's a positive. So when we say be positive, that doesn't mean like act like you're perfect, but like it shows character growth, it shows tenacity, it shows strength, it shows all these great things when you could talk about, this is something I've been through, this is how maybe people didn't believe in me, this is how I used to not believe in myself, but now I'm here, and like this is how my mindset has changed, and this is how me overcoming this experience, this is how I will use this to be successful at your school, or this is the perspective that I'll bring to your school. Another thing I want to say about the grit, grind, and hustle. Okay, so for a lot of people, especially if you're applying to maybe more selective schools, I will say that I feel like a lot of times people from who are applying from community colleges, or even people who like might be coming from, I'll just say community college because we're all a community college, we discount like our brilliance. We discount the fact, like all that we do. And like just the fact that you are coming from Prairie State, from Chicago Heights, like you're already an anomaly from a lot of the people that are also applying, who are like maybe fresh out of high school, maybe had a silver spoon in their mouth, always had, you know what I mean? So like, don't discount the grit, grind, and hustle that comes from where you're from. So it's like, if you're working as a CNA in the middle of a global pandemic and going to Prairie State, that's brilliant. If you are an essential worker, like if you're working at a grocery store right now and taking classes online, that's brilliant. Like that, those are amazing things to include. Even if I'm even thinking about me, like because I'm gonna be applying to go to another 4-year school. I help as a caretaker with my grandmother in her 90s. That's some brilliant stuff, So there are things that we might look at like, oh, that's just normal, that's just my life, like that's nothing. But it's like, no, that's a skill. Your social media presence, right? Are you really good at photography? Do you like art? Are you good at makeup, hair? These are really cool things. And sometimes we overlook things thinking it's just mundane, but these are the things that make us interesting, and it makes us who we are. It adds more color to who you are. So just to get some insight on what I wrote about for my essays to get into NYU, I was applying to the art school. I don't attend there anymore because it was too expensive. But basically, I wrote about the loud Black woman stereotype, but I switched it to be positive, saying like, you know what? through my art, through my writing, I want to reclaim this stereotype and say, you know, it's not a bad thing to be a loud Black woman. And I talked about the loud Black women in my life, my mom, my grandma, and like just how they, you know, helped me, and how maybe how they express themselves looks a little different than me, but how, you know, it added into like, you know, who I ended up being. I talked about some of the things I did in high school, so it tied in. I was on the speech team. I love writing, all that, so that tied in. And I also talked about different people that I look up to in media, and even like specific alumni from the school that I was applying to that I felt were loud and unapologetic in who they were. And so that was like a specific plug, like, and you know, this person graduated from your school and they did XYZ, and I could see myself doing something similar, or like continuing like pushing this legacy of brilliance forward at your school. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that. And then for my YNYU essay, I wrote about where I'm from. I talked about the South suburbs. I talked about growing up, being around all types of people, because, you know, the South suburbs, seeing white flight happen, being around people of like all different like socioeconomic brackets and races and all that, and how I felt that that would prepare me for living in New York City and attending a school like NYU, where they on their website and, you know, in media, they're always pressing diversity and bringing together people from different places. Like even the fact, like in freshman year, you aren't able to choose your roommate because they strategically place you with somebody from somewhere that you're not from. So like really doing research on the school and seeing what parts of the school, what values, what pillars that they have that you actually identify with, and maybe trying to connect it to experiences you already have, or maybe areas you want to grow in, you know? So that's what I have to say about that. And working in the admissions office, really just they're looking for people from all over, all different types of places, all different types of stories. So don't be afraid to tell yours. Don't try to be someone you're not. Don't try to tick every box perfectly. Just be you, and that's what stands out. Definitely, you know, get help. You go have people read your essay, revise, and all that. Like tick those boxes. But I'm just saying, don't be afraid to be unique or be different from maybe some of the other people who might be applying, because that is what will help your writing stand out. Yeah, and even being unique, like storytelling. Don't be afraid to throw in some anecdotes, maybe jokes. I know someone at my school, a year after me, he got into Notre Dame. He opened up his essay with a poem. You know, don't be afraid. If you like poetry, do that, you know? So that's my main advice for all of you on here.
That was wonderful. Thank you. You did such a good job of blending together, describing what a creative essay is. So you had your theme of the loud Black woman, but you took it back and then you integrated into it all the concepts, like what your career goals were, why you picked that school, and your interest. It's for your future career. I'm sure was in there. I think you said I'm not, but yeah. So that is. You just gave a full example of what I was trying to get to with that.
Yeah,
so you
and even though I'm pursuing a different career now, my interests, my values are still the same from even then, you know? So it still applies, even if what you end up studying looks different. If you're being truthful to like who you are and what you want, I feel like it'll still apply even if your career changes, or major changes or whatever. So
yeah, definitely, it's going to change for a vast majority of people. It evolves over time, but write about what you know now and of what your goals are. They do want to know where you're going. So I did want to throw in a slide. This slide is actually from an info session I did on scholarships. That was a couple weeks ago. I did record it, I believe, and put it on YouTube. So I will include the link of that session so you can see that. If you want ideas about where to be looking for scholarships, definitely watch that session. And just for kind of a quick overview for you guys right now, so scholarships almost 100% require essays, so be prepared for that. Internal scholarships are the university-based ones, so like Prairie State's Foundation gives scholarships to attend Prairie State, UIC does for UIC, so internal ones. Always looking there first, and how to look is start with the admissions office and the financial aid web pages, then literally search scholarships on their webpage. And then actually, I think to Google search the name of the school and scholarships. Those 4 ways are the best ways to double check that you're looking and finding all the scholarship opportunities at schools you're specifically targeting. Their deadlines can be early. I'm seeing a lot of deadlines of February 15th for next fall. So if you have certain schools in mind and you're going to be at them next fall, do that. That's going to be some homework for you the next few days. So you usually get the best chance of getting scholarship money straight from the school you are going to. It is almost always partial money, and it can still be a significant amount of money you might still need. Like Jocelyn said, she's not at NYU anymore because it was too expensive. And I'd like to think she's happy that she's at Prairie State, but I won't make her say it. She's nodding. And so then external scholarship, and actually, frankly, I hope that her future education will have limited to no cost. So going to the scholarships things, watching that video, doing this stuff as early as you can is a way to really bring down the cost for school, keeping your options open too. If you try to plug into one plan, it makes it a lot harder to achieve it. If you keep multiple options open, you have multiple opportunities to make it happen. So the next one is external foundation. External scholarships are from outside groups. So foundations, community groups, other groups that want to support someone. And those can be harder to find. So your job, your parents' job, any community groups or churches you're part of, always great places to start. There's free scholarship search engines. Those are the bottom 2 things where it says little and in between. Little means this is where you usually find smaller scholarships. So FastWeb and scholarships.com, usually you find scholarships around $500, $1,000, or $2,000. But that money adds up fast. And sometimes people aren't applying to it. You still hear stories of people getting scholarships because they were the only one who applied. I have personally signed up for a FastWeb account a few years ago to see if I thought they would spam me or sell my email. And I've never seen any sort of thing. It didn't spam me. I could unsubscribe. There was a couple auto things. I unsubscribed. It was fine. You can always defer getting put on, say no to being put on lists. And it doesn't look like they sold my email anywhere. Scholarships.com is also very similar. So those, and then MyScholarly and Unigo. So all 4 of those, you can create a free account, answer questions about yourself, and then it has this portal where it's showing you scholarships that you are likely to be eligible for. You can click on the scholarship, get more details, and usually you just continue to click and you can get right to the application to apply. And I know FastWeb, it puts it like, you see the deadlines right away. So it's showing you things where the deadlines haven't passed yet. Those are the little, and in between, MyScholarly and Unigo is kind of a mixture. You'll find small scholarships there, but sometimes you can find some larger ones. While I'm down here on those specific links, the big scholarship, if anyone is going to be a sophomore next year, this one's very specific. If you're a community college student who has never attended a 4-year university and you are on track in December of so the deadline for this year already passed. But in December of your sophomore year, you're on track to be a junior the next year at a university for the first time. You're not transferring in spring. Your family's income is below $95,000 a year. This is a scholarship, a nationally competitive scholarship worth up to $40,000 a year for up to 3 years. In 2013, 2 Prairie State students got it. It's very competitive, so it's a very, slender kind of amount of people that applies to, but we had 2 students were finalists for it last year. Sorry, semifinalists. So they were honored by the organization as being a top student, but they didn't get the money when you're a semifinalist. And we actually had 2 Prairie State students the year before in 2019 also were selected as semifinalists. So we can support you on this if you connect in and follow through and do that extra research. It's just like another class, just you don't have to pay tuition for it. Okay, jumping back up, merit-based and need-based scholarships, just a heads up. If a school says, if you see something that says merit-based, it's based off of your GPA. 3, 5, or higher is usually the GPA makes you eligible for almost all merit scholarships. Some of them have higher GPA requirements. Need-based means it's based off of your family's income. And so your income would have to be under a certain level. The Jack Kent Cooke example I gave you was a mixture. It's both need and merit-based. And then automatic versus applications. I probably should have that right by the internal university scholarships because that's where it's relevant. When you apply to a university, some schools, not all, not very, it's never assume anything, but some schools do give automatic scholarships based off of GPA or need. That's a small number of students or schools, so never assume that that's the case, but it's something to be aware of. So if they say, oh, these scholarships always, if they're like, yeah, we have automatic ones, don't stop there. Say, oh, okay, do you have additional ones like in my major I could be looking to apply to or things like that. And then I just want to, you know what, I'm going to do kind of a general wrap up, but I want to give Jocelyn and Margaret a quick, is there anything else you guys want to add in before I kind of do a more general wrap up? Okay, oh yeah.
One tip from working in the admissions office, I forgot to say, find out who the admissions rep for your state or your region is, because usually they have their information on the site, and like if you reach out to them or if like the school is having some type of event, like sometimes they come to Prairie State or like, you know, sometimes they just have events in the area. I think it's good to introduce yourself somehow just so they know you. I introduced myself to the lady who was the Illinois rep during the application process, and that kind of stuff helps because then they're like, wait, like Jocelyn or Noah Corey, I know that name. Okay. Like I think sometimes that helps. So and then you kind of get an idea of who's like reading your essays and stuff. So
yeah,
you have that information on the sites.
When some schools are, some extra competitive schools like NYU do something called demonstrated interest. And if you have like officially signed up and done in-person or virtual tours, or you've been emailing, or you've signed up to be on their waiting list, those are things that can help you. And then also a lot of schools don't do that. So you don't have to obsess about it, but it's good to do that research, and it's just good advice for every school. If they know who you are when they're reading it and you've made a good impression, of course, that's the important part that go with it. That only helps you. So yeah. Thank you. And before, and I almost forgot, Jocelyn had talked about, so the published writing, becoming a published author in a scholarly journal happened through her Prairie State class in support of Dr. Nestall. And I've talked to Dr. Nestall after I heard about how she has her English 101 class designed to encourage students to submit for publication if they wish. So if anyone here has an interest in pursuing publishing your writing, I spoke to her and I can share her information. You can just let me know and I could connect the two of you. She said she'd talk to any students about it. And if you have not yet taken English 102 and you're interested in a class where you get credit, but also you learn more about getting published, you can also just take it as a regular student. You don't have to actually pursue getting published. But if that's an interest, take English 102 with her because she actually has a class designed to help you go towards that goal. That's a great thing for students that are not in our science and math majors, but that want to pursue excellence in other ways. Awesome. Okay. I think that was all the extra points that I wanted to give. And then a quick reminder, I'm going to actually jump up to the top what Jocelyn said about get to know them. So the transfer fairs on this page, the bottom half of this page, I have 5 transfer fairs happening this semester. In a normal in-person non-pandemic spring, I would only have 1. So this is where COVID is giving you more opportunities. I have HBCU specific fair, public Illinois universities. There's a general fair that's part of a state agency, and private Illinois universities. So this is that would be a great chance. You can also do virtual tours or email or set up meetings with admissions officers at schools you're interested in, but there's also these fairs. And then I'm going to jump down. And then just a quick heads up that I have a whole lot of other resources for you guys on Prairie States. I've got a series of web pages for students planning to transfer on for their bachelor's. These links are some key web pages to go to. I will send you the presentation so that you can connect to those directly. And if we haven't talked already, or if you want to talk again, I love setting individual appointments. So email my contact information. Email me to set up an appointment if you want to talk about your goals and what kind of steps that things I can help you put together a plan and kind of a to-do list or people and organizations to look into to help further your goals. And then Professor Rossi, you can always sign up for writing center appointments. I was trying to remember if you had a different word for it, but that'll work. And I have the link there.
Yeah, that is the word for it. Yeah, the Writing Center
Okay.
appointments, and that's right on the homepage, Prairie State College homepage. If you scroll down, you can click on the link there. And I'm not the only tutor there. So,
She's not, but they can look by tutor's name, I believe, when they're signing up.
oh yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right, so I am going to stop recording.